In my last shop, I meant to do a shop tour at some point, but first I wanted to get it set up, and then we decided to move, and I never got around to doing a shop tour, so I thought maybe I should just do a shop tour of this shop now, even though it's in complete chaos right now. So what happened is, when I'm shooting on this workbench, this corner has always been sort of this chaotic dark corner in the background, so I decided to paint this wall. And before I painted, I decided to mud the drywall, but before I do that, this part here was easy to remove, and that socket is on its own circuit. So I decided to run another wire from that up through the ceiling along the joists to put another socket back here. There's actually a fair number of sockets along this wall, but they're all in the same circuit, so this is on a different circuit from the rest of them now, so that I don't overload the sockets, because the planer and a dust collector and a heater, they all have to be on separate circuits. And while I'm painting, I figured I should also paint the columns, because those are kind of visible in the shots here, like this one, and then this one that's right next to the wall. And I used to have stuff in this corner, but I had to move all that out so I can paint very well. So next thing is to paint, and then I'll do a shop tour properly. Well, my workshop's gone from bad to worse, because while I was painting, I was figuring I don't really like the color of that yellow drywall, so I started painting behind the shelf, even though I didn't really clear it out for that, so that was kind of messy. And here, and here, and I might have painted that part too if I hadn't run out of paint. I did remember to put a second coat on here though. Now the painting's done. Now I just got to clean up. Making progress, but still not ready for a shop tour, because after I wired in that socket back there, I decided I'm going to put some more sockets on this pole here, and I ran a wire from another circuit that doesn't have much on it, and then I need to put some piece of wood around that, and this time I decided to make that piece of wood split as two parts, which made it easy to cut this notch out here for the wire, and it'll fit around the pole like this. And then here I've got holes for where the sockets are going to attach. Got the sockets wired in. Now I'm ready to combine those two pieces together. Now, how to attach this wooden post to the metal one? With drywall screws, of course, because they're so hard they'll happily tap themselves into an undersized hole in the steel. Well, it's another day and another painting aftermath, because when I went to the hardware store to buy these electrical boxes, I also picked up a can of white paint, and I figured before I put this lumber rack back on here, I should put a second coat on here, and then I might as well paint behind the shelves. So I moved all this crap onto the table, and while I'm painting, I might as well put paint on this drywall, which is relatively new, and put another coat on that wall, as well as finish the area where I ran out of paint. And then I might as well use up the rest of the paint, so I painted a lot of drywall in another room for the first time, and now everything's a big mess. It's now been almost 2 weeks since I got sidetracked with this shop tour, and the shop is now more organized than it's ever been. Although really, that's not saying much. I've been tweaking the lighting a bit. I moved that light here so it gets more light on the table saw, and this corner's always been kind of dark, and there was this light fixture here that I always wondered, what does that hook up to? The light switch, of course. It's just all the bulbs in it were burnt out, and there's another one back there just like that. So that really helped to put bulbs in those fixtures. And this room that I've got for my workshop here is 93 square meters, or 1,000 square feet. So as YouTube woodworkers workshops go, it's actually pretty good size, except I don't really need that much space for a workshop. So realistically, only about this half here is for workshop, and back here is just storage and stuff like that. And this corner being kind of a dark corner before, I just put another light up here, so now when it shows up in the background from here, it's not so bad. And in this shop recently, a few months ago, I moved this workbench in from the other room, and that's really handy, and I like having these drawers. And then I made a bunch more drawers to go in this workbench, and these are super handy because they're at such a convenient height to keep stuff in. Except I think I might move these nails because there's no need to have them that conveniently located. I don't use nails that much. And I figure I'll add some more drawers to this table using these boxes here that I used to organize the kitchen cabinets in the house 3 years ago. And I took them with me when we moved. So that'll be a nice simple project to finally get back to building stuff. I also added another drawer to this table using a box I had kicking around. Still need a drawer handle for it, and I haven't put stuff in there yet. And of course this big table is a recent addition, and it's already starting to fill up with clutter. But that's the whole idea. I like horizontal surfaces because you can just put clutter on there and not really think that much about where things need to go. So this is sort of a anti-John Heist philosophy, because he likes to eliminate his horizontal surfaces because they always catch clutter, and then he ends up with all of his clutter on his workbench and on his table saw. Whereas if you've got a lot of horizontal surfaces, it's much easier to keep your table saw and your workbench clear without having to think about it that much. Now I've got 3 dust collectors in this room. This one here is just hooked up to the table saw, and it turns on automatically when I turn on the saw. And then I've got this one back here, which is only hooked up to the jointer. It doesn't have that much suction, but that's okay because it's only sucking through a short little bit of hose, and it just has to get the wood chips in there. So that's worked out really well, and it's nice and out of the way. And then I've got this big one here that I bought more than 20 years ago, which I use with this planer as well as with a long hose just to vacuum up all the sawdust on the floor. Oh, and of course I have 2 dust collectors back here hooked up to those 2 belt sanders, and I have 1 dust collector like that, just a one for a belt sander back here, which is not hooked up to anything because I got rid of 1 belt sander when we moved. And I like having lots of drawers to keep stuff in because drawers are so handy for organizing. I've got more drawers here. This is mostly electronic stuff, and then these are discarded office drawers, which I've just recently kind of attached to each other a bit better, so these don't move around like they used to. Kind of ugly, but very handy for storing things. And of course this tall drawer thing, which I made at our old place, and then this one, which I made a long time ago, and this is just an old dresser. And lots of little drawers that I made, oh gosh, 30 years ago I think. And then I have some cabinets here that are full of just power tools. In here, and this one here, this is a horizontal filing cabinet. And of course this is just the main room. I also have this smaller room, which is about 15 square meters, and this is great for smaller projects, especially because this room is easy to warm up just because it's small and it's got a window which is nice for natural light. And I've got my big drill press and my big bandsaw in here. The big bandsaw I always use for the smaller stuff because that's where you need the most elbow room, so I just keep a 1/4-inch blade on that. And of course my old table saw that I bought 25 years ago. It was old back then, now it's even older. It's only a 9-inch saw, but works nice. And that's hooked up to its own dust collector back here, and another dust collector here. And the bandsaw doesn't really need one because it just collects all the dust into a drawer. And the new workbench that I built last fall, and then this drawer thing, I haven't filled all these drawers just yet. Oh, look at that snow drifting around. And then this thing here is actually a Raspberry Pi Zero W based time-lapse camera. There's a little wide angle lens on there. And I like that just to have more pictures of what I've done and figure out how long things have taken. And I've got another one here, and this one I originally set up to figure out where I actually am using just motion analysis, so they could then drive a stepper motor to turn this heater to constantly aim it at me. Except since I put this workbench here, there isn't really a good spot to put that heater where it sweeps everything. I thought about maybe mounting it to the ceiling, but that would be a bit dangerous, and this thing actually also needs to be tilted up or it overheats. It relies on convection to get the heat away from the dish. If I just tilt it forward a little bit like that by putting on something inclined, then it'll trip the overheat thermostat. So it definitely needs to be on the floor, and there just isn't a great spot for it now. Not one that can sweep the entire shop, so I just manually place it to aim where I'm working if I do need a bit of heat. But I have been working quite a lot lately on the software that runs on this, mainly the thing for visualizing all the images, because it takes a lot of pictures, and so just by hovering over this it shows me what I've been doing today. So I've had at least 3 hours in the shop today, and then I wrote this image flipper thingy, which I can flip through images relatively rapidly like this, or even just to drag across the screen, so I can really figure out, okay, what did I do here, what did I do there. And then on the bottom there's a little thing that shows what minute of the hour I'm actually showing, and of course I can click to any minute. And this shows the timestamps of all the photos, and if I like one I can click on save, and that puts it in a special place for photos I want to keep long term, because of course I can't keep all these photos. It just it's too many. After about a year the flash card is full. And there's different ways of looking at it, like just looking at thumbnails for what was going on in here. And a number of you have been asking about this software. I've been trying to polish it up for release, and that's been taking a lot of my time in the last 2 weeks. I've now uploaded it onto GitHub, so if you want to use it, go there and get it. But you have to be fairly expert in terms of using Raspberry Pis and editing text configuration files, because it's not a super user-friendly piece of software. But anyways, that's the shop tour. I originally thought I'd use the smaller room mostly, but now that I've got this big room kind of set up nicely, I kind of feel like using this room, even though there's no natural light. It's just bigger, and also it's a bit warmer by default without heating it up. I can get the other room much warmer, but if I come in this room, it's already almost just the right temperature already. Anyways, the next thing will be some drawers to go on this table, and I think I will make a video talking more about this software soon.